Hi friends. Hi. 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 Low. Hi. Low. So this is going to be part 2, where I do signs Libra through Pisces. And again, I have my very Christian deck of scripture verses. I was really enjoying using these when I did the first batch of readings. I didn't feel like having adult beverages tonight, so instead I'm going to have a throwback to my youth, which is clearly Canadian. Definitely Canadian. Truly, truly outrageous. And here's the part where I have a small disaster. I hope it tastes like I remember. You know, sometimes they change the formulations of these beverages. It is. It's just like I remember. Back when Chili's used to have those chocolate milkshakes with the sprinkles on top. And they would bring the fajitas to your table in the big sizzling skillet. That's the Chili's I remember. Alright. So we left off with the sign of Libra. I'm going to shuffle the cards just a little bit, even though I shuffled them a lot last time. Don't want anybody getting duplicate readings. Somebody who's a Libra sun sign and like a Gemini moon, and they're like, you had the exact same reading for both signs. Well, obviously it was just meant to resonate with you then. When I did the first batch, the readings were different lengths, so I'm not really trying to make all the readings the same length. Whew, Libra. John 4, verses 34 and 35. My food, said Jesus, is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. Do you not say, 4 months more and then the harvest? I tell you, open your eyes and look at the fields. They are ripe for harvest. And that, of course, is allegorical to the food of spirituality and what Jesus is offering through spirituality and following him. Oh, we got one of the jokers coming out too. And the jokers are associated with the devil in this particular deck, which I very much have been enjoying using. I really cannot reiterate that enough. I picked up this deck at a second-hand shop in La Cañada, Flint Ridge. And I have my Walnut of Truth. It's tucked away in a bag, so if I need it, I'll get it out. Be self-controlled and alert. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that your brothers throughout the world are undergoing the same kinds of sufferings. So there's a lot coming through for you in this reading, purely about spirituality and resisting things that you know not to be right for you. I'll say that rather than resisting temptation or resisting the devil. And knowing what is right for you. So here where Jesus is talking about the harvest, you might be changing up your diet actually and resisting things that you know are not good for you and cause you internal distresses. I know all about that, Libra. So we've got Ace of Wands, we've got a Ten of Swords, and we have the Nine of Cups. The Nine of Cups had come out in another reading, and it's about, they're describing Goliath. So this is First Book of Samuel 17, verses 4 through 6. And he's 9 feet tall, he's got a bronze helmet, he's wearing a coat of scale armor of bronze that weighs 5,000 shekels, and he's got bronze shin guards, they're called greaves here, and a bronze javelin. And the Nine of Cups, the Nine of Hearts, is about wish fulfillment, but sometimes it can be about satiation, or satiety, sorry. I was watching that video back. I realized I should say satiety. And also, the reason... The story of David and Goliath is a story about hubris, also. That they sent out this fantastic champion, and this tiny little dude took him down with a slingshot. Just like my dad with those peanut M&Ms, and the Goliath that was the endless squirrel population. Do not endorse those behaviors, by the way. So don't come for me. Don't come for my dad. Don't come for me. It was a long time ago. We have an interesting cycle here. So it could be that this ending is occurring right now with the Ten of Swords, and then we're going to get the Ace of Wands, new beginning coming in. So we're trading a very harsh energy cycle for something which is active, but which is rooted in creativity and passion. Yes, so the Ten of Swords in this deck is Deuteronomy 4, verses 11 through 13. And this is the part where Moses is standing there and the Lord is speaking to him out of the fire. I think this is the burning bush, but it doesn't say that specifically. But what he's being instructed to do is write down the 10 commandments on 2 stone tablets. And that was to bring an end to what was specifically going on is the children of Israel are wandering in the desert, and Moses goes off to take care of something and comes back, and he finds that they are worshiping the golden calf. And I talked a lot more about this in the readings in the previous video. But Moses had fought really hard to get his people out of Egypt and out of servitude, and a big part of that was worshiping these foreign gods. So, is God angry that you're worshiping graven images? The truth is that worshiping graven images is putting you either into real servitude, as it did with the children of Israel, or some other form of servitude. Because the one true God, which in the Gnostic faith is Io, that's he's given, like, you know, these secret names, but that is meant to show that it's not a quantifiable existence. This all pure and all loving deity is not actually the one who's persecuting people. Your behaviors have repercussions. And so he was talking to Moses about setting down these 10 commandments because they needed more structure to keep them from doing things like worshiping graven images, and apparently like killing each other was a big deal, because that's one of them too. I was actually thinking about this little song that I learned. I grew up in the Methodist church, and the Methodists love to sing hymns. They love to put on little spiritual plays. And there's a song about the 10 Commandments. And so that's what I run through in my head every time I need to remember it. So let's talk about this new beginning that's going to be coming in for you, Libra. And I think that it's just a trying time for you. You're showing up as this great bronze warrior into situations where you're being given these choices between right and wrong right now, in a way that is really going to define your future. So what does that future look like? This is John 1, verses 22 and 23. Finally, they said, "Who are you? Give us an answer to take back to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself?" John replied in the words of Isaiah the prophet, "I am the voice of one calling in the desert. Make straight the way for the Lord." This is going to have to do with you redefining your faith, Libra, as well. And these are obviously very Christian skewed readings, although I don't consider myself as much of a Christian as I am a Gnostic. I have strengthened my relationship with Jesus Christ a lot over the past couple of years. But not in a way that comes from organized religion, if that makes sense. And a lot of the shenanigans that occur in organized religions, I really don't care for. So if you have trauma surrounding the Christian faith and churches like that, I totally understand. But to me, that's not what this is about. The Bible is a lot of it is much older than that anyway. But unfortunately, both of my copies of the Tanakh are in storage right now. And do you go out and buy another copy? I should probably just download it on my phone and be reading it there. But I like my copies because they have the Hebrew in there with the English, and I don't speak Hebrew, but I never will, with the attitude of not having it right there alongside the English text, and being able to reference back and forth into the original language is super important to me. So anyway, Libra, I see a strong new beginning for you coming around the corner. And it very much feels like a total change from what you've experienced prior. And in fact, I am going to get out the walnut of truth. The walnut of truth. Keep it in here with my sewing implements so I can fix things. What is coming through for Libra? What is the deal? What do they need to know about this massive cycle shift that's going on in their lives at this time? Antimony. That's like a alchemical... The alchemical symbol for antimony. Ah! My light! It's kind of like a psi, like this right here. Antimony uses: lead storage batteries, solder, sheet and pipe metal, bearings, castings, and pewter. Oh, just like my walnut, huh? Excuse me, I'm having a little bit of gassy issues. So maybe the walnut is like, don't look too deeply into things that have no significance in the matter. Basically that pay attention to what materials you're working with, what things are made out of. So that you can best utilize them. All right, let's move on to the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio, what do you know? I've got the Two of Pentacles jumping out for you. A lot more jumpers tonight than I had last night. Interesting. Having clearly Canadian makes me so happy. Okay. Stuffy. Interesting. We've got a couple kings, we got a couple wands, we got a couple diamonds, 2 and 4. So 2 being half 4, 4 being twice 2. Oh yeah, this one from Ezekiel. I'm going to start with the 4 of Pentacles because I really love this from Ezekiel. It's Ezekiel 7 verses 2 and 3. Son of man, this is what the sovereign Lord says to the land of Israel. The end has come upon the 4 corners of the land. The end is now upon you, and I will unleash my anger against you. I will judge you according to your conduct and repay you for all your detestable practices. Now, I love this on the 4 of Pentacles because it really is like the 4 elemental corners, the 4 cardinal concrete points on the land. That there is no escaping from justice. So that's important to remember. The 2 of Pentacles is Matthew 22, 37 through 40. And this has to do with the first 2 commandments. Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments." If you're able to do that second one, honestly, that really changes your whole situation. Being able to love others as you love yourself kind of eliminates a lot of these other commandments. You know, things like thou shalt not unalive people. We don't unalive our friends. We don't unalive people we love as much as ourselves. And we, you know, a lot of people have other things going on that cause them to maybe not love themselves as much as they should. And that's kind of where the first commandment comes into play, because loving your Creator also helps you to come to an understanding of loving yourself, because your Creator made you this way for His own reasons. People talk about these things like soul contracts and past life karma and all of that. I mean, I don't think that's why people suffer. I really don't. And you certainly should not just ignore the fact that people suffer. But there's still a lot of good and joy to be had out of life, even in the face of suffering. Because these two cards are coming out together, the two pentacles like this, it kind of seems like in areas of your existence where people are not being righteous to each other in whatever way they need to be, those situations are going to be falling apart. They will be judged according to their conduct and repaid for all their detestable practices. And this could just be like petty friend groups falling away from each other. It could be work situations falling apart because people are not doing things the way that they're supposed to be doing them. So the King of Hearts is about King Solomon, everybody's fave. And this is from the second book of Chronicles 9, verses 22 and 23. And it's talking about how King Solomon had the greatest riches and wisdom, more so than all the kings of the earth. And all of those kings of the earth sought audience with Solomon to hear the wisdom that God had put into his heart. And then we have the King of Wands. Oh, this is from Revelation. Revelation slaps really hard too. And actually I got like a tiny little copy of Revelation that I might do a reading from that at some point. This is the part from that Johnny Cash song. I saw heaven standing open, and there before me was a white horse, whose rider is called Faithful and True. With justice he judges and makes war. He is dressed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is the Word of God. On his robe and on his thigh he has this name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. The Pale Rider. I think the verse in the Johnny Cash song is slightly different. But this is talking about the beatific vision of the Lord Almighty and the Word of God. So the Word of God, in the Libra reading, I was talking about how they make up like secret names for God because he's so ineffable. And this, I think, too, has to do with that ineffability. Can't be effed with, right? So you've got King Solomon, who was so rich and so wise. He could get anybody he wanted to do anything he wanted, and he didn't have to. And we have got the Word of God, faithful and true, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. It really seems like somebody's above reproach in this situation. I hesitate to say that because, you know, nobody should really think of themselves as above reproach. It's kind of dangerous to do that. But this might really be a situation where you've gone above and beyond to be kind and caring to people. And that's about to be recognized in a big way, Scorpio. So now let's talk about the Seven of Wands. This is from Genesis 7, verses 7 through 10. And they're talking about Noah and his whole family going on the ark to escape the waters of the flood, and bringing all the pairs of animals on board so that they could repopulate the earth with these animals, because such was how God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days, the flood waters came to the earth. So there will be a moment of reckoning coming. There's a lot in there about this moment of reckoning that's coming in a situation where you have really put your best energies into the situation, Scorpio. And it's possible that others around you have not appreciated your efforts, or they have done things to try to subvert your actions, or, you know, just generally not loved their neighbors as they love themselves. Maybe they haven't been loving themselves enough either, which is really too bad. I mean, I understand how that happens, but you are literally all that you have at the end of the day. You should be kind to yourself. You should be righteous to yourself, and you should be righteous to the people around you. But I don't have to tell you that, Scorpio, because you already know. Alright, so next we're going to move on to the sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius. And I'm writing some of the timestamps down. By the time I finish editing, of course, the timestamps are a little bit different. So, playing a little fast and loose. I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out. Alright, Sagittarius. Yeah, here we go. Alright. You got lots of spades coming through in your reading, Sagittarius. So let's start with the one non-sword, which is the Three of Hearts, Three of Cups. This is talking about the sons of Noah who came out of the ark. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the one who founded Canaan. These were the 3 sons of Noah, and from them came the people who were scattered over the earth. So this is a beginning point of sorts, in that 3 people, or, you know, rather like a small group of people, are coming together and they're establishing something new. Now let's see. I think I'm going to read the ace last. I'm going to read these kind of like in the order that they've come out. So the Five of Swords, we're looking at, again, the story of David and Goliath. This is from the first book of Samuel, 17, verses 40, 48, and 49. And it's talking about how David goes down to the stream and he picks out stones from the stream and he gets 5 stones out of the stream and he puts them in his little tote bag. And he reaches in the bag and takes out a stone and hits Goliath right in the forehead, and he falls to the ground. So definitely a Five of Swords energy coming through with that verse. There could be like an adversarial situation, that there's some kind of establishment going on. Maybe you're trying to form a company or something like that, Sagittarius, but there's been a situation where maybe you had to buy somebody out early on, or maybe somebody exposed themselves to be a bit of a tyrant early on, and you've had to nip that in the bud. Queen of Swords, too. This one came out yesterday. It's all about Queen Esther. So this is Esther 2, verses 17 and 18, and it's basically talking about how the king was more attracted to Esther than any of the other women, and so he picked her as queen over Vashti. And there was a big banquet. It was Esther's banquet, and all the nobles and officials were there, and it was a great party. So, a celebration after a victory, after being chosen. So even David and Goliath's story, there could have been somebody that you thought was going to get this position over you, but you got chosen for it, and now you've celebrated that. And then the Eight of Swords, and this one is from Judges 3, verses 7 and 8. This is about how the Israelites forgot the Lord their God, and they started worshiping false idols, the Baals and the Asherahs, the Astaroths, the Inanas, the Ishtars. And it says the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, so that he sold them into the hands of Cushan Rishathaim, king of Aram Naharaim, to whom the Israelites were subject for 8 years. But I have a different theory about this, because the true God doesn't do stuff like this. But what can happen is, if you're worshiping false idols, you end up beholden to people who are in charge of those false idols. And then you end up in servitude to those forces as a direct result of the actions that you've taken. So, because the religious structures in ancient times, the priesthoods all held a lot of power. So in order to curry favor with the priesthood, there might have been a necessity to go into servitude to them and to the king. So in the context of your reading, Sagittarius, there might be false idols along this path that you're encouraged to follow. And this can happen in startups, in corporate cultures, that there's, these enigmatic leaders that you are encouraged to follow, but you end up doing things for them that you really shouldn't be doing in your best interest, right? And then they're just going to discard you if they find that, you know, they need to make layoffs or something like that. They just discard people. So be mindful of that in this situation where the Eight of Swords is here in the reading, because they're going to gas you up first. That's why this card is coming through about Esther and her banquet. You'll beat somebody out for a position. They're going to gas you up. They're going to love bomb you. Potentially. It might not be so extreme and it might not be so overt. But you're going to end up in an Eight of Swords position where you feel kind of trapped. Either your career path stagnates or some other factor occurs that causes this to kind of stall out. But then the final card we have is the Ace of Spades. So this is kind of like the Death card. It's also kind of like the Ace of Swords, right? Excuse me. And this is Matthew 18:12 through 14. If a man owns 100 sheep, and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills, and go look for the one that wandered off? And if he finds it, I tell you the truth, he is happier about that one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should be lost. So let's go back to the first part of the reading to kind of tie all this together, because you're going to be dealing with, in this particular situation, Sagittarius, there's going to be a small core group that has started this venture, and you might be part of that small core group, or you might be somebody who's been hired on at a later date. Really check your alliances, because there might be somebody there who is very invested in you, and there might be a different person who's gassing you up and trying to manipulate your behaviors so that you'll end up more beholden to them and they can try to get you to do more things for them for less money. But with this Eight of Spades coming through, somebody does know your true worth, and that is who you should be loyal to. All right, so let's move on to the sign of Capricorn. And all of you guys just had a birthday not too long ago, so happy belated. I know I haven't been super regular with the readings, so not everybody has gotten birthday greetings from me in the past 2 years. I apologize for that. It's been real. I think I've talked about it enough. Alright, Capricorn, let's get into your reading for this upcoming period. I think these are going to post kind of like middle to end of January. It's probably going to be, you know, for like that January into February period. Maybe a couple weeks, maybe a month. A lot of readers say, well, you might not even see this until like months and months from now. And, you know, there's something to be said for that. General readings, it's very difficult to be directed enough and specific enough. It's probably only going to resonate with certain people. And that's okay. That's just the nature of general readings on YouTube. All right. We've got Ooh, got some interesting ones here. Oh yeah, this one, I saw that one yesterday. Oh yeah, this one too. Okay, that's interesting. Ooh. Very interesting, Capricorn. So, we got 2 10s, we got a 5, we got a jack and a queen, and 2 of the cards are clubs or wands. So we're going to deal with the jack of spades first. And in this deck, they call the jacks fools. A greedy man stirs up dissension, but he who trusts in the Lord will prosper. He who trusts in himself is a fool, but he who walks in wisdom is kept safe. He who gives to the poor will lack nothing, but he who closes his eyes to them receives many curses. And that's from Proverbs 28, verses 25 through 27. And of course, it can be difficult to have enough for yourself and also to give to others. I try to give to others when I'm able to. And when it seems like they might have need that is greater than mine. But of course, in my current position, I have to be really careful not to just give everything away. We're going to talk about the 5 of clubs now, too, because it kind of goes along with this card, in that this is Matthew 25, verses 1 through 4, and it's talking about the kingdom of heaven is going to be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet their bridegroom. 5 of them are foolish, and they don't bring extra oil in a spare jar for the lamp. And then 5 of them are wise, and they bring oil in jars along with the lamps. So they're being prepared. So you do have to trust yourself a little bit. Walking in wisdom, you know, I have a real beef with a lot of the English translations of the Bible. I don't think that they get it, like, very clear sometimes, and this is one of those instances, because, like, he who trusts in himself is more like he who thinks himself infallible is a fool, right? Because it's good to be prepared, Capricorn, it is. And it's good to walk in wisdom. That is what keeps you safe. A greedy man stirs up dissension. Yeah, this is talking a lot about, obviously, like, concrete forms of wealth. And, because then with the 5 of Wands, we're talking about, like, bringing extra oil in jars along with the lamps to be prepared. So there's a difference, too. It's all about your discernment in situations. There's a difference between being adequately prepared and being greedy. So that's kind of what is coming through with this, is that don't be foolish with your resources. Be jurisprudent and also be kind and generous with other people. Now we will, let's see. Yeah, I'll talk about the 10s first, and then I'll bring it all back around with the Queen of Diamonds or Pentacles. So the 10 of Wands is all about how, this is similar to what I was saying in, I think it was the Scorpio or Sagittarius reading, about one lost sheep from the flock. You're going to scour the countryside. You're going to leave your flock of 99 and go look for that 100th sheep. Suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. She's going to like search high and low, and when she finds the coin, she'll say, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." And in this same way, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. So that's Luke 15, verses 8 through 10. We're talking about coins again here. There's a lot coming up for you in this reading, Capricorn, about the concretion of prosperity, like the physical, tangible aspects of money. There could be like, maybe you're hoarding physical forms of wealth in like a savings deposit box, like a safety deposit box at the bank or something, or in a safe. It could be that you're thinking a lot about an item maybe that was of high value that got lost. That's another possibility. I do see you sitting in your prosperity, whatever that amount looks like. There's a lot in here about appreciating and being able to utilize properly the resources that you have at your disposal. So not necessarily that you're fabulously wealthy, but that you're really able to tap into those resources and use them not just for yourself, but to help the people around you in a way that's meaningful and not frivolous or enabling or something that in the long term is going to be not beneficial to either of you. The Ten of Hearts is a cool card in this deck. This is Matthew 20, verses 21, 23, and 24. And this is about, grant that one of these two sons of mine may sit at your right and the other at the left in the kingdom. Jesus says, you will indeed drink from my cup, but to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. Those places belong to those for whom they have been prepared by my Father. Ah, okay, now I understand what they're talking about. Is like, you know, when, well, there were 12 disciples, but at this point there's 10 people that he's hanging out with, and I guess what he's saying is like, it's not for me to choose who of you sits on my right and left hand side, you know, that is for God to decide. And they were indignant with the two people who got to sit there. So maybe that has to do with Peter and Andrew. I need to go back and read the Bible more. But using these cards has been a lot of fun, and it helps me kind of remember the stories and put together where all of this stuff fits. Blessings do not just come to us because we deserve them all the time. Sometimes it's just a matter of chance. And sometimes blessings are very deserved, and people might not always see the good that you're doing for other people as readily as they see your perceived privilege in situations. So that's coming through very strongly in this reading, Capricorn. And finally, the Queen of Diamonds. The Queen of the South will rise at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. For she came from the ends of the earth to listen to Solomon's wisdom, and now one greater than Solomon is here. And that is Matthew 12, verse 42. Rise at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. So I don't know if they're talking about something in the afterlife here. This part's a little obscure for me, I admit. It is from the book of Matthew. There will always be somebody who comes along who's younger than you, prettier than you, smarter than you, but they're never going to be you. And nobody's going to be better at being you than you are yourself. So when people place themselves above or below each other, it's always going to be in fallacy. Because each one of us has very specific things to offer. And in turn, it's not right for any of us to perceive ourselves to be greater or worse than anyone else. It's not our place to compare. Do not covet your neighbor's possessions or his wife, I guess. Kidding. Definitely, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And then all of the rest of those commandments are super easy. But it looks like you're doing a really good job, Capricorn. So, proud of you. Alright, next we're going to look at Aquarius. And Aquarius, we are entering your birthday season. So, I hope that all of you have fun plans for your solar returns. And that you're generally having a nice time. Aquarius, of course, being the opposite of my sun sign of Leo. I usually get along pretty well with Aquarius sun sign individuals. I get along well with the fixed signs in general. Alright, Aquarius. I pulled the blank for you. So let's see what some of these other cards say. Ooh, yeah, so Seven of Pentacles came out. This is the one about when Jesus took the 7 loaves of bread and a few small fish, and he broke them all up and he handed them out to like thousands of people. And this is the version of the story that's told in Matthew 15:34 through 37. One of the other cards, he's only got 5 loaves of bread. I think that might be Luke. Luke remembers it differently from Matthew sometimes, I guess. 8 of Wands. So this is from the first book of Peter 3, verses 20 and 21. And so Peter's talking about the days of Noah and how only 8 people were saved. And the water of the flood symbolizes baptism that doesn't remove dirt from the body, but is a pledge of a good conscience toward God. It saves you by the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who has gone into heaven and is at God's right hand. So he's drawing these parallels between the flood and baptism and the significances thereof. Because Peter was always trying to convince other people to become Christians, because he's a good friend to Jesus. He betrayed him 3 times, but he only did it because he thought he was being a good friend. We have another one of the jacks, which is the Jack of Diamonds. Now these are in this deck called the Fools, Aquarius. This is from Proverbs 18, verses 1 through 3. An unfriendly man pursues selfish ends. He defies all sound judgment. A fool finds no pleasure in understanding, but delights in airing his own opinions. When wickedness comes, so does contempt, and with shame comes disgrace. So we've got a little bit about baptism, the flood. We've got a little bit about being able to make a lot out of very little, and that being the Seven of Pentacles card, where often people are dissatisfied with the results that they've gotten from hard work. And the Jack of Pentacles. When wickedness comes, so does contempt, and with shame comes disgrace. No pleasure in understanding, but delighting in airing one's own opinions. There might be a proliferation of opinions. Because too, like this quote from Peter is all about like his drawing these analogies. But these are not necessarily things that Jesus was saying to him. This is his own interpretations, it seems like. And then we have the Ace of Pentacles. And this is Genesis 2, verses 21 through 23. And this is about how God stole one of Adam's ribs while he was asleep and made a woman out of it. This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man, the womb of man. So a lot going on with your reading this time around, Aquarius. And then we got this blank card, which is kind of a blessing, because otherwise this would like be very complicated. So I am going to get out the walnut of truth. What's going on here with Aquarius's reading? There's a lot of contemplation of deeper philosophical ideas that's going on at this time. And these could be things that you have thought about for a long time. They could be things that, like, your ideas are being supplemented by other people's ideas, such that when you receive one idea from another person, you're able to turn it into a bunch of different concepts. A lot of rhetoric. So you could be surrounding yourself with a lot of rhetoric right now. I'm trying to separate out the people who are pseudo-intellectual from the people who actually know what they're talking about, which can be a little bit difficult sometimes. And there's not really, I mean, it's a blank canvas right now. And then this card, the Ace of Pentacles, it looks like you're working towards like writing a book or putting material out in some form that's based on all of this research and collecting of ideas that you're doing. So there's a discernment process here. But it looks like you're getting closer and closer to actually putting these thoughts and ideas into the tangible form that you've been working towards. So that could be happening very soon for you, Aquarius. All right, and finally, Pisces. Pisces. Sailing on the pie seas. Sea is made out of pie. And what's the time? To get ill. Alright. So there will be repeated cards between the two videos, but within each video there won't be repeated cards. That's kind of how it is going to work. And I think this one's going to end up being a little bit shorter. I think it was a little less verbose with this one. All right. So Pisces, you got the other Joker, which is Luke 4, verses 5 through 8. And again, it has to do with the devil. And this is the one where the devil leads Jesus up to a high place and shows him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And he says, I will give you all their authority and splendor, for it has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. So if you worship me, it will all be yours. And Jesus says to him, it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Oh, heck yeah. Oh, I love this card. It's the Three of Wands, and they're talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego surviving in the fiery furnace of Nebuchadnezzar. I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods. Weren't there 3 men that were tied up and thrown into the fire? And then they open up the furnace, and out they walk, servants of the Most High God. And that is from Daniel 3, verses 24 and 26. 24 through 26. So, Pisces, these two cards coming out together, it really seems to me like you're being tested in this time. Maybe your faith being tested, but also, you know, I approach it from a much more experiential standpoint. That faith is a very, like, you know, nebulous concept, but the practice of that faith is what is important. I don't think that you need, faith is important, but what's more important is like being righteous to each other and being true to your moral path, but not because it's the morally correct thing to do, just because it's the best way to handle yourself. Not because you're going to get some divine reward, but because overall that's just the right thing to do, right? I hope that makes sense, the way that I said it. So now we've got 3 spades coming out. We've got 3, which is half 6. We've got 6, which is twice 3. And we have the king. And I'm just gonna, I don't like this king of spades. It's all about Pontius Pilate. But I'm gonna start with the 6 of swords. And these are the 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him. This is from Proverbs 6, 16 through 19. The things he hates are haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a man who stirs up dissension among brothers. So you might be surrounded by some mudsterers, some mudslingers right now, Pisces. You might have people around you who are doing things in a way that is kind of morally reprehensible, and you're trying to navigate that in the most upright way possible and keep yourself 100%. So the King of Spades, that is John 18, verses 36 through 37, and it is where Jesus says, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jews. But now my kingdom is from another place." "You are a king then," said Pilate. Jesus answered, "You are right in saying I am a king. In fact, for this reason I was born, and for this I came into the world to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." So there you go. Everyone who's on the side of truth is going to listen to you, Pisces, because they know that you are living your life in a way that is upright. Not that you're above reproach, because I don't think any of us are totally above reproach, nor should we act as though we are, but you're doing your best to maintain an upright way of handling yourself and your business. And finally, this 3 of Spades, this is the one where Peter's like, I would never betray you, Jesus. I would never speak against you. And Jesus answers, this very night before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And Peter says, even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you. And all the other disciples said the same. So that's Matthew 26, verses 33 through 35. And Peter does indeed love Jesus. And he does indeed disown him 3 times. And it's kind of because he thought he was doing the right thing in some of those cases. You know, maybe he thought he was protecting Jesus. Oh, who's that in there? Oh, that's nobody. You know? So sometimes we do things like be dishonest or not disclose things because we feel like that is actually more protective of somebody than of actually just being honest. The only problem with that is that it does make things much more complicated and unclear. So anytime you have an opportunity to tell the truth, you probably should. Even if you think that you might be protecting somebody by lying or by being dishonest or not disclosing. You could end up betraying them in the long term. It could end up creating an issue for them where, you know, somebody would otherwise think they were qualified to do something, but because of something you've said, they're going to doubt that person's qualification to do it. That's kind of the scenario that was coming up in conjunction with this reading. Oh, that's so good. So that is going to conclude these particular readings, this batch of readings. You're going to have to trust that whenever you find these readings is the right time. These will be posted like mid to late January of 2024. So anytime after that, these things could be occurring. I don't really do pick-a-cards, but I do believe in the flexible timeline of readings and that sometimes you'll watch a reading when it is appropriate for you and that it'll come to you when you need it. So I'm going to handle it like that. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you all of you for your support. I am posting a podcast now, and the first 3 episodes I made into one video. You probably saw that already and uploaded to this channel. But I have it up at rss.com, and I'm also distributing through this normal streaming services that have podcasts. And that way I can compartmentalize and do more like the tarot and the fun stuff here on the YouTube channel where ASMR works really well. And then I can take a lot of the social espionage stuff over to the podcast because I think it'll do a lot better over there. I feel like it's important to put that information out and to be analyzing these things. But it's not like I started this channel because I wanted to take these esoteric concepts and make them fun. And a lot of those videos are not as much like fun, you know? Some of them do work as ASMR videos, but I think it'll be better to have these things compartmentalized, especially as I get into more like the next episode that I'm going to be posting for the podcast has to do with different technologies that could be used for mind control and technologies that people think are being used for mind control that might not be used in the way that they think they are. So, again, it's information that I feel like it's important to have out there, but, you know, tarot readings are more fun for the YouTube channel, and then the podcast can be much more serious. But again, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know down below. There will be timestamps, of course. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon.